we'll give it just a couple more seconds here. See if we get any more people because we're still getting people. This is great. Welcome, everybody. This is awesome. Hope you all had a good time on the elevator rides. Met a lot of good people. Getting a couple from Seattle there. See Jason, Carl. All right. I think it's time to get started. So, welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us for Sound Exchange 101, sponsored by Sound Exchange. My name is Tisha Naipaul. My pronouns are she, her, and by way of a visual description, I'm a woman with brown hair, brown eyes, and brown skin, wearing a blue shirt with white stripes, purple bows, headphones, and glasses. I'm the Membership and Development Coordinator at Focal Lines International, and I'm excited to get this webinar started. Before we begin, let's take a moment to note that we are joined today by folks from around the globe and to collectively recognize the importance, complexity, and difficulty of offering land acknowledgements in the context of online programming. I am joining you from the indigenous land of the Osage, Kansa, Paw, Kickapoo, and Oceti-Sakowin nations, also known as Kansas City. We invite you to not only join in acknowledging our shared responsibility to work towards reconciliation, but to commit to taking personal, meaningful, and measurable action towards healing the legacies of colonization, forced migration, and cultural erasure. If you would like to learn more about the Indigenous legacy of the land you're on, we will be posting a link in the chat to assist you with that. Now, it is my great pleasure to introduce you to our two presenters today, Marc Rucker and Tiara Guy, SoundExchange Associate Directors of Artists and Industry Relations. Welcome, Marc and Tiara. It is so nice to have you both here. So why don't we jump in with their introductions and then go over all things SoundExchange.
Yeah, ladies first. Go ahead, Tiara.
Well, thanks, Tisha. Hi, everyone. I'm Tiara. I've been at SoundExchange for just about 15 years, and I have to say this is one of my favorite parts of the job is getting to chat with people, to learn more about SoundExchange, where we fit in the ecosystem, and how to best kind of utilize our tools. So I'm super excited that so many of you are taking your time to join us today, and hopefully you can walk away learning a little bit more about SoundExchange.
That's right. And hi, I am Marc Rucker. I am based out of Nashville, Tennessee. I've been at SoundExchange for 3.5 years and spent basically, I feel like a lifetime in artist management and business management for that. So I've sat in your seat or an artist seat and talked with them about why this works the way it does or how to make it work better for them. So hopefully I can come to you with some practical background info. I see Alex is in the crowd here. I just talked about you. Go Chiefs. But really just wanted to start here. I mean, SoundExchange, we've tried to put together some educational pieces, but just wanted to kind of let you guys know that as Tisha mentioned, we do have a Q&A at the end of this. So if you have questions, drop them into the Q&A feature down at the bottom. We'll answer them at the end. We do have some important takeaways for you, which we'll kind of list those out. So take your notes, but also know that we will kind of give you some takeaways just to make it a little bit easier. This should be about 20 to 25 minutes, just so we're all on the same page. And then last thing is check out the SoundExchange YouTube. So if you see something that you're not sure about, we do have resources there, videos there, which I'm this person that if I can watch it on video as I'm doing it, I feel a lot better. So please check out our YouTube. We have a ton of resources there. But yeah, without further ado, we'll go ahead and get started. Ready to go, T?
Yeah, let's do it.
I like it. Awesome. So really at the beginning of this, we wanted to kind of start with like getting everybody on the same page, right? Like introduction to SoundExchange, give you the general cliff notes, and then we'll go deeper into it. So we'll start with saying we are collecting and distributing royalties for featured performers and the sound recording copyright owners from over 3,200 non-interactive digital service providers. So long word salad to say, if you are a featured artist or a master owner of a recording, then you need to set up you get registered and claimed with SoundExchange. I'll kind of break down who those 3,200 non-interactive service providers that pay into SoundExchange are and how we work with them. But essentially, what it means is we administer the Section 114 compulsory sound recording license, and we do this for over 700,000 registered creators. We advocate for them around the world as well, whether it's in the US or, again, around the world, to increase payments, to increase creator rights and royalties as much as we possibly can. As Tiara mentioned, she's based in DC, which is where we are headquartered. So there's a ton of work that we do with that. And then just to highlight one of my favorite things that we do is we pay out 90% of our royalties within 45 days of receipt, which in the music industry terms is like light years. It's super fast. So yeah, I just want to highlight that, kind of put us on the same page. So the next slide, I want to kind of say, how big is SoundExchange, or what's the impact that it's made so far? So it started in 2003. So we're just over like 21, 22 years. And since then, we've distributed over $12 billion to artists and rights owners, which is a tremendous amount of money. And then if you look at the right-hand side here, you can see like a yearly chart where we're clipping just over $1 billion a year this past year. We're kind of hitting this good point. And I think that's such a growth of an opportunity. So good for you guys for being here and kind of figuring out what your royalty systems look like, which ones are the most important, and then how do we do this? So that's the ultimate question. How do you get paid when your music is played, right? I think a lot of managers, a lot of artists, there is a lot of confusion around it. There's a lot of pieces that feel like, oh, this is really complicated, but hopefully we can break this down for you. What I really wanted to show you is that when you do record a song, you have two copyrights that exist within that. So obviously you have your underlying notes and lyrics, which are your songwriter and publisher side. And then when you record the song, you have the permanent fixation of sounds. And so that's what we're specifically talking about today. SoundExchange works with the sound recordings of the sound recording copyright. So whether you're the featured artist or the rights owner of that sound recording. So really want to highlight that. And then if you look at us in the digital music royalty ecosystem, if you guys can see this chart, follow the SoundExchange blue. We are specific to the sound recording. At the top here, we pay out to the featured artist and the copyright holder, which would be the master owner at that point. And we also pay out to the non-featured musicians through the SAG-AFTRA AFM fund, which I'll kind of talk about a little bit later as to how do you get that. But then also when you record music and you release it, you would be releasing it through a distributor. So that's another place that you would receive a share of your revenue from. And if you go a little bit further down, and this is just to highlight this so you guys have a full view of this, on the musical composition side, this is your songwriter and publisher side. So if you are not only performing the recordings and owning the recordings, you might be writing them and being the publisher on them as well. You would need to get registered at a PRO like ASCAP, BMI, CSAC, Alltracks, GMR as a songwriter and a publisher. And then ultimately, you would also need to set yourself up at the MLC as a songwriter and publisher as well. So again, specific to SoundExchange, we are here for the featured artist and the sound recording copyright owner. The next piece I really wanted to just kind of talk through, and this one we'll kind of sit on for a minute because we get this question a lot. Who pays this royalty and where does it come from and why does it come from those, right? So there's over 3,200 services that we collect royalties from, but they all fall in these buckets: satellite radio, internet radio, and cable TV radio. It's very specific to the law that we work under, the license that we work under. Again, that's Section 114. So what is covered on the bottom left, you will see our non-interactive transmissions over satellite, internet, or cable TV radio. The best examples of that are SiriusXM Radio, Pandora, Music Choice, or iHeartRadio. iHeartRadio is an interesting one because obviously some of us know that iHeartRadio is streamed in or is played in your car. But because it's in your car and not over the internet, that wouldn't count for our royalty. So that's a very specific nuance, but just kind of want to highlight that for you guys. And then on the other side, you see what's not covered, which are on demand or audio visual transmission. So on demand meaning you can skip, you can select the song or the artist, or you can go back and forth, you can do a bunch of different stuff. So like Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, SoundCloud are great examples of interactive services that would not pay into our license. And they don't have that to pay that. So So yeah,
And I was just going to mention, Mark, there is a list of our full 3,200 services on our website that's available. We try to update it every quarter and make it available on our website in case you ever want to scroll through and see.
Yeah, which is really helpful. I mean, again, I think a lot of it comes back to like again knowing kind of how the system works and then what the law says of who's going to pay into it. So yeah, it's a good thing to highlight. Again, check out our website, check out our YouTube. It's all there. And so when royalties do come in, how are they split? How would you guys how would you know what's coming in? And from it, like if you think of 100% pie, which you can see here. 50% goes to the sound recording copyright owner or slash master owner, depending on your verbiage there. 45% goes directly to the featured artist or to a company that they wholly own. So it could be an LLC, could be their touring corporation, or it could be them as an individual. And then that 5% to the non-featured artists or the non-featured musicians, which be, background vocalists, backing musicians, goes directly to the AFM and SAG-AFTRA funds. So that's where musicians and background vocalists would go to collect those royalties specifically. So again, SoundExchange is here for the featured artists to get registered and claimed, as well as the rights owners or the master owners of sound recordings to get set up and claimed. So I really wanted to highlight that, and hopefully you guys aren't tired of me as saying, featured artists and sound recording copyright owners, but that's a very specific thing to SoundExchange that's different than the other, industry payment services like PROs or the MLC. So really just wanted to keep highlighting that. And so now we're going to kind of talk through, what's the steps of getting set up, and I'm going to throw it over to T to kind of walk us through that.
Yeah, awesome. So as Mark said, we kind of wanted to give you an outline of like kind of where we're heading through here and what I'm going to be covering next. So first, we're going to hop into registration with SoundExchange. So SoundExchange is nonprofit. It is free to register with us. The easiest way is going to be through our website. It should hopefully only take you about 10 minutes if you have everything that you need. This QR code here will actually lead you to our registration page in case you haven't gotten registered yet. But you should definitely think of registration as how to set up your payment place with us and how to create the profiles that you'll need in order to claim recordings. Profiles being that featured artist profile, sound recording copyright owner profile, or both. And so as Mark also mentioned, we have a strict policy on the artist side that we pay performers directly, either as individuals or to companies that they wholly own. You will be able to potentially authorize somebody on your behalf. So once you kind of start the registration process, choose what profile you're going to be using, you're also going to have the ability to either continue on registering on behalf of yourself or authorizing somebody to register on your behalf. That could be a manager, a business manager, family member, whoever you're, comfortable kind of navigating through that process for, but we have to have authorization from the performer. So you'll go through, create your profile, let us know how you want to, be paid, and this will register you in order to collect any royalties that we've collected in the U.S., domestic royalty collection that we get for you. So like I said, this should be a pretty straightforward process. If you have questions along the way, you can definitely reach out and let us know.
I was going to say real fast, T. There's a question here real quick. It's on this topic. It says, if I am both the feature artist and the copyright holder, do I need to register twice?
That is a great question.
Right. Yeah.
So this is why I kind of mentioned that you should view it as a payment place. If you want to keep your performer portion separate from your copyright owner portion, then yes, you would need to submit two separate registrations. But if you're okay with it all going to the same payment place, then no, you only need to submit once and let us know what profile. Some people, like perhaps you're a part of different bands or group work that you're doing, and maybe the band that you're a part of is collecting through an entity that you all own together. And then maybe you have a business on the side, you own a record label and you also help other artists, and you want to keep that, portion completely separate, then you would need a separate registration. So that's an excellent question. So like I said, once you submit your registration, you're now set up for US domestic royalty collection, but it'll roll into what we call our membership step. And the main benefit of becoming a member of SoundExchange, which requires an additional membership agreement signature from the registration is that you can authorize SoundExchange to collect international royalties on your behalf as well. This is also referred to as neighboring rights in our industry. So it will kind of, you'll submit your registration, it'll roll right into the membership step, and you can choose whether or not you want to authorize SoundExchange for a worldwide collection, or you can completely customize your mandate with us. SoundExchange is the largest neighboring rights organization in the world, covering over 87% of the global market. We do this through reciprocal agreements that we have with other territories around the world, where they'll collect for our artists or rights owners, we'll collect for theirs and swap the money. So you can view a full list of all the current agreements that we have in place around the world on our website. We're constantly negotiating more agreements every day, but we do this at an extremely competitive admin rate, which is around 7% and one of the lowest in the world. We do have the lowest admin rate for domestic collections in the world, but you do not have to be a US citizen in order to use SoundExchange for international collections. SoundExchange is able to collect all collectively licensed royalties abroad that are available. And another big part of what we do, as Mark kind of mentioned at the top, is not only are we advocating here for you in the US, for higher rates and for different legislation, but we're also doing that abroad. And SoundExchange is kind of the only collection management organization that has a formalized letter of direction process, which I'll also let you know what letters of direction they're all about next. But SoundExchange is a great one-stop stop option to collect all your domestic and neighboring rights in one place, and will kind of detail on your statements when you're earning revenue exactly where you're collecting, and from which territories.
Yeah, I'll just jump in real fast to highlight that. Be sure to either select that box or to know where your international royalties are being collected from. So sometimes people won't select that box and then realize I haven't been collecting international royalties at all. So even if you are registered at SoundExchange and this is kind of like a refresh for you, definitely check your mandate with us and make sure that you're collecting international. Because again, if you're not collecting through us, obviously you want to make sure that you're being collected somewhere, but we would love to do that business because we think they're the best at it. So anyway, just want to highlight that.
Want to make sure you're not leaving anything on the table, right? It's a great point. So I did mention letters of direction. For those who don't know, an LOD is used by a featured artist to allocate a portion of their royalty to a creative participant on that track. So when we say creative participant, we're referring to a producer, a mixer, or an engineer. And then SoundExchange uses that letter of direction to create an account for that producer, mixer, engineer, so they can receive the royalty directly that the featured artist has allocated to them. They're not seen as direct registrants, which means they can't claim recordings directly. It all has to happen through this letter of direction process. I'd also mention that if you are a producer, mixer, engineer, if it's a collaborative track between multiple performers, make sure you're securing, all the signatures as well, so that you're getting your full percentage on that portion. So you've now registered with SoundExchange, you've decided about your international mandate and opted in for neighboring rights. And now we're going to kind of take you through the most important features of our online portal, SX Direct, and searching and claiming the recordings that should be linked to your account for payment. Like I said, our online portal is called SX Direct. It's a 24/7 self-service portal. This is where you'll be able to, view your account or accounts in your dashboard, be able to edit information and claim music and view your statements. So you're definitely going to want to ensure that you've created your login after you receive kind of a welcome email from SoundExchange confirming, your registration went through, your account is set up. You'll be able to, like I said, we don't want you to have to call us, to make any easy updates you might want to make. And so you're able to do that all through the portal, and it's all done through the email address that's associated to the account. So as far as like who has access to this portal, there's one kind of primary contact on every account, which is that, main email address that was used to set up either for you as an individual or the person that you've authorized. And they'll be able to create their login, view your accounts on their dashboard. They can also add guest contacts to an account through our guest list feature. only the primary contact can do things like edit payment information, but they can add these guests who can then have their own login, so you don't have to password share or anything like that. And they can grant them rights to either, view only, like look but don't touch, maybe you need transparency into the account, or view with repertoire, which means this guest can actually help claim recordings for you and help manage your catalog on the portal. So that's, super helpful. And it looks like you want to add something
No, I
there.
was just gonna say, total manager hack. I don't know if anybody works with a management team or is on a management team, but if you use the same email as a manager and you have multiple clients, it will all show up under one login for you, right? So it's so helpful in a lot of ways, whether it's a business management team or again, an artist management team. If you work with an artist directly and they want you to help claim their recordings, you can do that on their behalf. And also it helps you monitor it a little bit easier. So a lot of teams take advantage of this, and so do the artists. And so I just wanted to highlight that for you that it does give you a lot of freedom at that point. And like T said, you don't have to share logins or passwords or anything like that.
And so then that kind of brings us to our search and claim tool, which is, we can't stress how crucial this tool is and how necessary it is to ensure that you're not only maximizing your collections with SoundExchange, but just ensuring that you're not, leaving any money on the table. So our search and claim tool allows you to search our entire database of recordings that have either been, reported as streamed or uploaded by a sound recording copyright owner. You're able to search by title, artist, ISRC code, or album. You'll kind of do your search and go through and let us know by clicking like which recordings you want to add to your cart. You'll organize those claims. You'll let us know, what percentage you're claiming, what alias do you release under. Maybe it is just like your government name. Maybe you have an artist name, or it's the band name that you release under, and you're providing us with that information as well. SoundExchange can then just process your claims. We have a manual review process to, combat any fraudulent claims and things like that. But this is the process that will allow us to link the appropriate recordings to your account for payment. If you just register, it's not enough because we don't know what recordings to actually pay you for. So we recommend using this tool at least on a quarterly basis, just to ensure nothing's falling through the cracks. That's just because, metadata can be one of the, biggest issues in our industry. The reports that we get from the licensees who are using our compulsory license, sometimes they're not in the best, quality, and there could be misspellings or iterations of different recordings. And so we just ask that you do a quick search. If it looks like it's your recording, make a claim and put it in. We also provide this tool for rights owners and those that actually own the masters to the sound recordings. The biggest difference is they obviously have the ability to search and claim and kind of use the same type of tool where they're searching our database of recordings. In addition to the percentage that they're claiming, the main distinction between artist and rights owner is that a performer on a particular recording is never going to change, but the master of the sound recording can be bought and sold and licensed. So once you select the recordings that you're claiming, like I said, in addition to the percentage, we're also going to ask you for the date range that you're claiming this recording. So we also have really great bulk claiming tools built into the portal where you can be applying percentages and date ranges to all the recordings in your cart. If you're, claiming a large amount, or, you can go through and do the individual claiming if, the numbers and date ranges might vary. But this is, the significant difference between artists and rights owners, just because that can change. The other main thing is that our rights owners have the ability to submit recordings, which I'll chat about next. But once you submit those recordings, we're going to process them. Like I said, you'll know that they've been linked to your account for payment because now they'll move from search and claim into your associated recordings. So your associated recordings will actually give you visibility into drilling down to the particular recordings that have been linked to your account for payment. If you were to bounce back to the search and claim tool to search for those same recordings, they should no longer show up in the search because they're already linked to your account. So again, we just recommend you're using the search and claim tool, at least on a quarterly basis to make sure you're not, leaving anything behind. And this is what allows SoundExchange to know what we're collecting and distributing to you, not only domestically, but abroad, for your neighboring rights if you choose, a mandate with SoundExchange. So this is the most crucial thing you can really do once you're registered with SoundExchange.
Yeah, definitely. I was going to say that. I mean, so many times we talk with artists that have registered 2 years ago but haven't claimed their recordings, and that's where most of their money gets kept. So just to reiterate it again and again, registration is great. It's a great place to start. Search and claim is the thing that you need to keep coming back to. Yeah, it's great to highlight that over
Yeah,
and
and if you don't see the recordings in there yet and you don't own your masters, like contact your record label, contact who it is to be like, hey, can you submit the project to SoundExchange so I can claim it? That way it's already linked in the system. So as soon as we see those reports of play from our licensees, it can pay out more quickly. So as I mentioned, sound recording copyright owners and record labels have the ability to actually submit metadata for recordings directly to SoundExchange. They're able to do this, they can do 1 or 2 recordings really quickly in this in-app version, or we have a bulk upload kind of tool where they can be submitting, hundreds or thousands of recordings at once with the appropriate metadata that we require to accept that upload. They're also able to include their percentage in that bulk claim so that we can make those adjustments fully. I still recommend, if you're submitting recordings as a sound recording copyright owner, to hop over to that search and claim tool. Because as I mentioned, there can be variations and iterations and misspellings and things missing in a version of a recording that might not have matched, the version that you provided in that upload. And we want to prevent any, variations falling through the cracks. So, we just want to make sure your claims are as complete as possible. So that being said, now just to recap kind of what we've covered and what we want to make sure everyone takes away from what we've been talking about is your registration with SoundExchange, opting into an international mandate to ensure your neighboring rights are covered, searching and claiming all your recordings as both a featured performer and a sound recording copyright owner if you are both. And this is how you're going to be able to receive royalties on the recordings that you're earning and getting, non-interactive streaming on those platforms for. We love to leave everybody with this handy how-to quick guide. If you scan that QR code, it'll link you to a PDF document that covers several of the things we went through just now, in addition to some of the other things that SoundExchange is working on. It has contact for Mark and I and our team. It also has links to different videos that Mark mentioned on our YouTube that are different tutorials. It has search and claim tutorials and those submit recordings tutorials that will really kind of guide you through and hopefully be a helpful resource for you. But I think with that, we can take questions.
Yeah, there's actually quite a few that we can kind of talk through. I think maybe I've gotten at this a couple of times, but T, I'll let you answer this one. Um, how far back can you collect royalties? And it's
Excellent
from
question.
only when we first join, or is it from when is it from? When does it start?
Yeah, no, great question. So royalties with SoundExchange are retroactive for up to 3 years. And when we say that, we mean 3 years from when it was streamed and reported to us and has been sitting. So it doesn't refer to like recordings, earlier than 3 years. Like it means you have the ability to claim that exact usage of that recording within 3 years of when it was reported. So the quicker that you can register and claim your recordings, the better, so that you're not missing out on any of your royalties. If you miss that 3-year window, basically that money is subject to a pool release where it's redistributed amongst registrants and used to offset admin costs. So a big part of what Mark and I do on our artists and industry relations team is actually outreach to artists who have royalties waiting and need to register with SoundExchange so that we can make sure they're aware, help them through this process. It's a big reason we do things like this, right? To ensure people know that there are royalties waiting for them.
Yeah, definitely. Another question here is, what if somebody else already claimed my recordings like CD Baby?
Oh,
So
that's a great question.
I know it's a fun one.
Excellent question. So as Mark and I mentioned at the top, artist royalties, it's a strict sound exchange policy that the artist portion of royalties has to pay out directly to the performer or a company they wholly own. We will not pay a third party for the artist portion. However, you can enter into an agreement with a distributor where they will say, oh, we'll collect your sound exchange royalties. They can only do that on the sound recording copyright owner side if you own any of your own masters, but they cannot actually claim your artist side. So if you enter into an agreement with your distributor to collect sound exchange royalties, cool, but make sure you're also registering on the artist side, and that you do have to register directly with Sound Exchange. So just ensure like you're being covered for both portions and know that your distributor cannot actually claim your artist portion of royalties.
Correct. Yeah, I think that's definitely a common question that we get. And I would say just to also note that like you're giving up a percentage of your royalties for the same thing you're going to sign up for anyway as a featured artist. So just something to think about. I know maybe it makes it a little bit easier, but I would argue Sound Exchange has a great easy way to do it as well. It could save you the 10 or 15% that they may be charging you. So something to consider. What other questions do we have here?
Did ask about should I sign up with Sound Exchange if you're signed up with another society outside the US? So again, Mark kind of spoke about this a little bit in our neighboring rights section, but we want to make sure you're covered in the territories where you're receiving airplay. So let's say the example I'll say is like, say you're Canadian and you're signed up with a Canadian PRO. And I mean, I will at least say for the US, you should absolutely be signed up with Sound Exchange directly for at least US collections. Again, we have the lowest domestic admin rate. For US direct, you're definitely going to want to set up with Sound Exchange, but you can have mandates through different collection management organizations. So I would just ask, make sure that you're covered in every territory, whether it be through Sound Exchange or another collection management organization, and make sure there's no conflicts. So you don't want to be saying, oh, to your Canadian CMO, like, yes, collect for me in the UK. Also, Sound Exchange, can you collect for me in the UK? Because then that money will end up in a conflict. So just ensure that whoever you're giving your mandate to in different territories, that you know you're covered, that it's not in conflict with another collection management organization. But the biggest thing is to just make sure you're covered so that you're not, leaving any of those royalties on the table.
I like it. I I did see one real fast. Can you talk through the letter of direction real quick, just from a producer's point of view? Uh,
Sure. Yeah. So we always say to producers, you should have a Sound Exchange letter of direction printed out and part of your paperwork before you even turn the lights on in the studio. It is pretty hard to go back and get signatures retroactively, like in general, right? And so we don't want you to have to like go back 10 years and be like, oh, I can now do a letter of direction. But you can absolutely do that. But basically, the letter of direction has to be signed by the artist in order for us to honor it. The artist also has to be registered with Sound Exchange directly, at least for US collection, for us to be able to pay through a letter of direction to a producer, mixer, engineer. Once we receive that letter of direction, which the artist can apply retroactively for that 3-year period, or as of a certain date moving forward, we will use the letter of direction to set up an account for that producer, mixer, engineer. They'll actually have their own SX Direct login. They'll be able to go in and see what letters of direction are active, what recordings they're being paid for, what percentage. They'll be able to view their statements for when they're receiving distributions for the recordings that have earned revenue. But they won't be able to use that search and claim tool to actually claim recordings as a producer, mixer, engineer. It has to be through that letter of direction. If part of your agreement is that you own a percentage of the master, then you're going to want to register directly as a sound recording copyright owner to collect that portion of royalty directly. But you'll need the letter of direction if you're going to get a percentage of the artist portion, and that has to be signed by the artist.
yeah, thank you.
Hopefully that answers that person's question.
I was gonna say, I feel obviously it's like in the weeds of it, but these are the tools that we need to make sure people are armed with. I mean, again, Sound Exchange is the only CMO in the world that honors LODs, letters of direction. So, that means that if you collect royalties internationally through us, that can also be paid to your producer. and other CMOs that does not exist. So it's a very unique thing to what we do. But definitely wanted to highlight that as well.
Definitely, and especially because producers don't have their own collective. It's just
Yeah.
super important.
Yep.
Um,
As far as adding backup singers, mixers, etc., what if they are for different songs? If I add them to my profile, do I have to adjust song by song?
That's a good question. So one of the things I'll also say about that 5%. So by law, SoundExchange is required to send that 5% of every recording that's reported to SoundExchange to the AFM SAG-AFTRA fund, regardless of if you used session musicians or background vocalists. Keep in mind, SoundExchange covers music, we cover comedy, we cover spoken word, we cover Broadway recordings, So we're required to send that by law. And then SAG-AFTRA and AFM, they have their own distribution process that's completely separate of SoundExchange to pay that money out. So if you're a featured artist or rights owner registered directly with SoundExchange, you don't have to provide the information for your session musicians or background vocalists for any of the non-featured portion. We are just concerned with the featured performers and then if you own any percentage of the sound recording copyright.
Yeah. Also, I just wanted to highlight kind of something that you were kind of talking about is we are here for sound recordings. That means, again, originals that you would record, in your own studio or at home, but also live recordings. If you release a live recording, you can also claim it through SoundExchange if it's received airplay. You can get royalties through that. Same as cover songs. Again, we are not here for the songwriters and publishers side. This is specific to the featured artist and the sound recording copyright owner. So if you release cover songs that receive airplay, that is also something worth claiming that I would argue I've seen artists do really well with. And so again, don't think that just because maybe it's not you didn't write the song, you can't claim it through SoundExchange. Again, we are specific to the artist and the sound recording copyright owner, which kind of falls into the if it's been recorded, you can register it through SoundExchange.
Yes, if there's a way to see a running total of how much has been collected, if you're waiting to reach threshold for a payment, which is another great question, and we didn't even speak to threshold. So first, I'll say there are different payment methods with SoundExchange. There's physical checks, which we mail it to you. Those are distributed quarterly in March, June, September, and December. And then the other payment methods, which are direct deposit, Cash App, Venmo, Zelle, and PayPal, those are distributed monthly as long as you meet our minimum threshold, which is $100 January through November. And then in December, I believe we lower it to $10. Currently, I do not believe we have a balance for you to see in SX Direct. I believe it is a feature we're working on. However, we do make negative balances available for you to view and to download reports of. Because let's say you're an artist who has been earning royalties and then you go back and apply an LOD retroactively, that might debit your account so that you're crediting the producer, mixer, engineer. And then your revenue that you're earning through your royalties will pay that debit. And as soon as it's neutral and can pay out again, your payments will resume. So we have those types of reports for negative balances that are available in SX Direct. However, I think we're working on a potential balance report as well, but you can always reach out to one of us and we can get that information for you so that you have an idea of, based on your earnings over time, when you can expect to receive a payment based on your kind of current rate of earning.
I like it. We got maybe some time for maybe a couple more. I see for non-featured performers, are those musicians and background vocalists submitted on AFM/SAG-AFTRA's platform instead? So yes, you would actually need to sign up directly with AFM and SAG-AFTRA to make sure that you're collecting those royalties. They'll have other specific information that they'll need from you. But the 5% that comes from SoundExchange goes directly to them, and then they actually distribute it themselves through their platforms or through their membership. So yeah, if you are a musician who's played on a lot of recordings, I would definitely reach out, make sure that you've got everything you need there as well.
Someone asked, our most recent recordings don't appear in our search, and we publish these latest via different online outfit or a distributor. So the different things that could be happening, one, The only way that recordings get in our database is either they're reported by the licensee, submitted by the distributor, or uploaded directly by the sound recording copyright owner. So I would definitely talk to your distributor if they haven't been uploaded yet, to make sure. The other reason they might not appear in search and claim is if they're already associated to your account. So ensure that you're checking your associated recordings as well. Because remember, if they're there, they won't be showing up in search and claim. So, you know, if we don't get an upload from either a distributor or a sound recording copyright owner, that means we just haven't received reports of use of those recordings yet either. But the quicker that you can have that metadata uploaded in our system, and we do receive those reports of play, the quicker it can pay out. So as soon as you have the metadata for a project, if you own the master, I suggest submitting it to SoundExchange as soon as possible. That way your artist can be claiming on their side as well.
I like it. Oh, I just saw a question or a comment here. I guess a question and a comment. Had to step away for a minute. Will this be available for replay? We have a ton of resources on our YouTube. I don't know if this will be specifically ready for replay. Focal Lines will definitely be able to tell you that. But just to highlight again, if there's anything you guys want to check out, we have a whole introduction to SoundExchange YouTube series that goes over these videos that we went through and gives you guys a good overview of how do you make claims, how do you update your accounts, you know, different things like that. So I would definitely check that out as well. Oh, Alex
Also
just said,
think,
yes, it'll be there. It'll be a recording. So yes.
yeah, and I would also say somebody asked about, oh, I don't remember if I signed up, I don't remember my account information. This QR code, again, it has information, especially for Mark and I. This is what we're here to do. So please reach out if you have a specific question about your account and we can help get you the information you need. I don't want you to have to go through the whole registration process again if you already have an existing account. That being said, and I can get you, you know, helpful information to kind of connect the dots on an existing account. But if you were to register again, no, it doesn't necessarily create a problem, but we would kind of need to figure out merging accounts on the back end to ensure that, you know, there aren't multiple accounts happening for the same portion of royalties. SoundExchange doesn't allow kind of multiple artist accounts for the same entity. You can have one, like say you're a band member and you pay, you know, your percentage of the band is paid through the collective, but then you also have a solo career, then you could have a separate account, right? If you own any masters, you could have a rights owner account, but you can't have multiple artist accounts for the same artist. Like if you're a solo artist, you can't have like multiple accounts. So please feel free to reach out with any specific questions around your account or information you might need, and we're happy to help with that information.
Yeah. I'll answer this last one for me. I was going to say, it says, if I've released something more than 3 years ago, no reason to add it to SoundExchange. No, that is not true. You want to make sure that you've added all of your recordings and everything that you've recorded as a rights owner and as a featured artist, because you never know when royalties will come in. That would suck if if it was getting airplay and you weren't collecting on it. Now, as TR mentioned, we go back it goes up to 3 years as far as when the stream happened or when the airplay happened. So, you know, if for some reason a song that you recorded and released 5 years ago ends up taking off now, you would still receive those royalties. So still worth doing. But again, I would highlight just to continue to make it you know, quarterly practice, or at least every 6 month practice, just to make sure you got your admin straight. Like, trust me, I know I've sat in rooms with artists and writers and all types of people where this isn't the most fun part of the job, but at the end of the day, this is how you get paid the royalties that you're earning. And we want to make sure that you're doing that with the least amount of friction as possible. So yeah.
But I mean, again, we want to thank everybody for taking the time. Like if you're joining sessions to learn more about your business, like you are already ahead of, you know, the game. Like that is so crucial. Like congrats on taking those steps to really try and understand. The music industry is complicated. There is a lot to like learn about and understand. And so hopefully this helps or gives you some resources and tools to make SoundExchange easier. You know, our goal is to be transparent and efficient, and so that this doesn't feel like a headache and that it should be, you know, easy. So that's what we're here to help. Please utilize those resources. You know, please feel free to reach out with any specific questions, but we're really grateful for you all taking some time to, you know, spend with us today. And learn more about SoundExchange. So, and thank you to the Folk Alliance for creating the platform to do this.
Yeah, definitely. And I'll just one last thing that if you guys work with other artists and rights owners, tell them about SoundExchange. One of the best ways that we get out there is through friends of friends telling artists like, "Hey, just making sure you know about SoundExchange, you're signed up." So just to remind people of that. But yeah, T, that's well said. Congrats to you all on making sure that you're getting everything you're earning and being your own CEOs. I think that's all from us. I don't know if Tisha and oh, there she is. But we're ready to sign off. You tell us what you need from us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you both so much. I know that there were a couple other questions that some people had. So, Mark and TR, if you are willing to share your emails or an info email in the chat right now so that they can have an easy way to contact you guys and get those questions answered, I know that they would appreciate that. But again, thank you all so much for a wonderful and educational presentation. Thank you to our team and our tech behind the scenes. And thank you all you folks for watching today as well. We would like to take this opportunity to thank our sponsor, SoundExchange, for supporting this webinar and our community. A recording of today's webinar will be made available on our YouTube channel and sent out directly to all of our registrants when it is available. On a final note, our year-round online offerings are provided at no cost to our members, thanks to the generosity of donors. If you would like to support our work, donations can be made at the link in the chat. So stay safe, y'all, and connected. And I hope you all have a wonderful day, and we'll see you soon.